Mrs. Donnelly, just was curious, when we went back into the 30s and 40s and we were trying to deal with a very, very difficult issue of segregating and desegregation of our military when it came to issues of race, if you could take yourself back then, where would you have stood back in 1940 on that issue of race? Where would you, it wouldn't be hard, put yourself back there, and now you're being asked to testify on behalf of this. Where would you have stood on that issue?
Well, I wasn't born then, but I remember in high school when friends of mine went
a little bit more.
When friends of mine went and were part of the civil rights marches, I was very proud of that movement, what Martin Luther King said and did. The history of the military with regard to civil rights is among our proudest chapters. On the Presidential Commission on which I served that looked at the issue of women in combat, we established that the executive order of Harry Truman was done for two reasons. To advance equal opportunity, yes, but its number one reason was to improve military necessity. We needed those soldiers,
right,
and we're proud of them.
Reclaiming
but
my
when
time,
you make
Mrs.
it a
Donnelly.
sexual issue, it doesn't fit the same
Reclaiming my
tradition.
time, please. Thank you.
Pardon?
Reclaiming my time here.
I'm sorry.
Yes. What would you have, because quite honestly, many of the same arguments were put forth then on unit cohesion, what it would do to undermine this great military that we had, I think we all recognize that the arguments sound very, very, very similar in many, many ways, and it comes back mainly to unit cohesion. It sounds like you feel very passionately that that was a good decision.
Yes.
If you could, again, put yourself back there, what would you have said to those people to help convince them that as well-intentioned as they were just wrong? What would you have said to them?
They were just wrong. Prejudice was wrong. But feelings about sexuality are different.
They were, again, they weren't talking about prejudice. They were talking about unit cohesion, and they weren't making a case that black people were good, bad. They were just talking about what it would do to unit cohesion.
Yes.
How would you have said?
What I'm going to say
do you
is,
think it would have? Do you think their arguments about unit cohesion were valid or not valid?
Prejudice was wrong. We're not talking about racial prejudice. We're talking about feelings of
Donnelly,
sexuality.
I'm not asking you about that. I'm saying
that sexuality does not matter.
I'll reclaim my time just a moment. If we, again, the whole argument on cohesion, I'd like you to answer the question that I am asking. It sounds like you believed you would have been on the other side of that issue this time. And they were making an argument about unit cohesion, not prejudice. They certainly didn't make this argument on prejudice. What would you have said to somebody who was saying this is going to be a bad thing for unit cohesion? What would you have said to them? Would you have said it's still worth it?
Prejudice is bad for unit cohesion. You do things for the best interests of the military. What we're looking at today is the issue of sexuality. It's personal, it's private. It's something that if we set out as a military to say there will be zero tolerance of anybody.
I'm sorry. I am
willing
sorry.
to go along with
what
it.
I hear you saying then is it did not affect unit cohesion, although many people said that.
I already answered your question at least 3 times, but it's a totally different issue.
I'm going to move on to Ms. Tauscher.